Hello everyone, I'm Narutolysis. In this episode, we'll be introducing Shikamaru. When you think of Shikamaru, the first thing that probably comes to mind is his intelligence, right? That's right, Shikamaru has an IQ of over 200, making him a literal genius. Despite having limited chakra, he relied on his intelligence to defeat powerful enemies. Later, he even took down a member of the Akatsuki on his own, and became an advisor to both the 6th and 7th Hokage. Even now, he remains an important character in Boruto series, playing a significant role in the story. In the world of Naruto, where strategy and intellect are highly valued, Shikamaru can be considered the 4th main character of Konoha's new generation. However, his intelligence has already been showcased extensively in the original series. So in this episode, we won't just be looking at Shikamaru's IQ, we'll also explore his growth and other standout qualities. When Shikamaru first appeared, he seemed like a total slacker, skipping class, sleeping through exams, getting grades as bad as Naruto's. He showed little interest in women, and acted like he had already seen through the world, with no desires or ambition. His catchphrase, "What a drag," perfectly summed up his attitude. He never seemed motivated to do anything. After forming Team 10 with Choji and Ino, he even joked that no squad was weaker than theirs. At this point, he seemed like just another underachiever with no drive. But don't be fooled by appearances. Shikamaru is, without a doubt, a genius. The only reason his grades were poor was that he couldn't be bothered to write during exams. He found things troublesome because his mind was too meticulous. Before taking action, he would calculate 5 or even 10 steps ahead, expending far more mental energy than the average person. So instead of dealing with unnecessary problems, he preferred to avoid them altogether. And as for Team 10, they were far from weak. The Ino-Shika-Chō formation was a legendary trio in Konoha, made up of the heirs to 3 powerful clans. Their teamwork was seamless, balancing offense and control. And about him not being interested in women, well, let's just say that's debatable. So, is Shikamaru actually a hidden badass pretending to be weak? Not exactly. When it comes to ninja abilities, his natural talent is actually quite average. His jutsu repertoire is limited. He only uses his clan's shadow technique, and if he wants to use any other ninjutsu, he has to rely on scrolls. More importantly, he seems to have severely low chakra reserve. Every fight drains him completely, and even when his shadow possession jutsu succeeds, it only lasts for a short time, and can be broken by brute force. Before he learned shadow stitching, he could only immobilize enemies, lacking any real offensive power. As a strategist, he relies heavily on his team. On his own, his combat ability is pretty weak. Given his intelligence, you'd think he'd never let himself end up in a one-on-one fight. But in the first part of Naruto alone, he deliberately separated from his team twice, choosing to fight alone. And that's one of his most admirable traits. For the sake of his comrades, the lazy and unmotivated Shikamaru was willing to put himself in danger. That's exactly why his mentor, Asuma, once said, "You have what it takes to become Hokage." Shikamaru's first true moment to shine came during the Chunin exam. In the second round during the scroll battle, his team happened to witness Team 7 being surrounded and attacked by the Sound Ninja. At this stage of the exam, everyone was a competitor, making it a high-risk, zero-reward move to intervene. As a purely rational strategist, Shikamaru should have stayed out of it, but he didn't. Instead, he convinced the hesitant Ino to help Sakura, and even dragged the timid Choji into the fight. To him, friendship among classmates mattered more than personal safety or strategic advantage. In the preliminaries for the third round, Shikamaru once again faced off against a sound ninja, this time, a female kunoichi, whose ability relied on using sound-based genjutsu through bells. However, her genjutsu was weak, barely more immersive than a low-budget VR experience. Shikamaru cleverly condensed his shadow possession jutsu into a thin line, disguising it as the thread she was using to ring her bells. Before she even realized it, she was trapped. Then, using the wall behind her, he forced her to knock herself out. Although his opponent wasn't particularly strong, the way he won, effortlessly and with such composure, left Naruto, who had always considered him a fellow underachiever, completely stunned. The final matchups were determined by random drawing, and Shikamaru's opponent, the woman who was practically destined to be in his life, Temari. Originally, his fight was supposed to be the last match. However, after Naruto and Niji's battle ended, Sasuke still hadn't arrived. As a result, the second match was postponed. Then Kankuro, not wanting to reveal his abilities, forfeited his match altogether. And just like that, Shikamaru was suddenly up next, completely unprepared. His opponent, Temari, had a bit of an arrogant streak. Since 2 of her teammates' fights had been skipped, the audience was already booing in disappointment. She wasn't about to let the Sand Village's reputation take another hit, so she made a grand entrance, landing in the arena with confidence and flair. Seeing her self-assured attitude, combined with the large-scale wind-release jutsu she had shown in the preliminary, which perfectly countered his own technique, Shikamaru seriously considered just forfeiting the match. But before he could act on that thought, Naruto gave him a hard shove. "Go for it. I'm rooting for you." Shikamaru hit the ground in a spread eagle position. Damn that idiot Naruto. Temari had already launched her attack, leaving Shikamaru with no choice but to fight. He sprinted into a dense grove of shadows, hoping to lure Temari inside. But she was no fool. Having already witnessed his shadow possession jutsu during the preliminaries, she immediately saw through his plan and kept her distance, attacking from afar with wind-release jutsu. Shikamaru tried to extend his shadow using the walls around the arena, but the distance was still too great. For now, he had no choice but to stay hidden in the trees, seemingly out of option. His jacket was blown into the air by the fierce winds, adding to the impression that he was being completely overwhelmed. But in reality, he had already devised a strategy. He was just waiting for the right moment. As time passed, the sun gradually sank lower, casting longer shadows across the battlefield. Seizing this opportunity, Shikamaru extended his shadow possession jutsu, catching Temari off guard. She reacted instantly, retreating just in time to narrowly escape its grasp. But Shikamaru's plan wasn't that simple. A small round shadow suddenly appeared beneath Temari's feet, his discarded jacket, now acting as a parachute for his shadow. With this extra extension, his shadow possession stretched even further, almost capturing her. Realizing that if this continued, she would inevitably fall into his trap, Temari decided to end things quickly. She began forming hand seals for her ultimate attack. Then suddenly, she froze. Impossible. She was certain she had avoided his shadow. Shikamaru told her to look behind her. Turning her head, she saw it. His shadow had emerged from a hole in the ground she hadn't even noticed. That hole had been there since Naruto's earlier fight against Niji, when he dug a tunnel beneath the arena. From the very beginning, Shikamaru had factored that tunnel into his strategy. His first two moves, both masterful feint, had merely been leading her into position. His third move, that was checkmate. With shadow possession jutsu successfully in place, Temari's body was no longer her own. She was forced to walk toward Shikamaru, step by step. The distance between them grew smaller and smaller, until they were almost close enough to feel each other's breath. From the stands, Asuma and Kurenai watched with satisfaction, proud of the young strategist. Temari, sensing the inevitable, closed her eyes in resignation. Then, just as victory seemed assured, Shikamaru let out a deep sigh. "I forfeit." Temari's eyes flew open in shock. For a moment, she simply stared, dumbfounded. Shikamaru's explanation? "I've used too much chakra. My jutsu won't last another 10 seconds. I came up with over 200 possible strategies, but none of them could guarantee a win." Shikamaru may have lost the match, but the brilliance of his tactics and his calm, calculated decision-making left a lasting impression on the high-ranking spectators. Still, his early surrender frustrated Naruto to no end. He just couldn't stand how effortlessly Shikamaru shrugged off the whole thing. But for Shikamaru, the outcome of the exam had never really mattered to begin with. Then, Sasuke finally arrived at the arena and engaged in an intense battle with Gaara. However, midway through the fight, an unexpected event occurred. Kabuto activated a large-scale sleep genjutsu that engulfed the entire arena. Orochimaru's hidden forces sprang into action, igniting war. Seeing the situation unfold, Shikamaru decisively pretended to be asleep. Kabuto's genjutsu only affected weaker genin and ordinary people, so Shikamaru wasn't actually caught by it. But with so many jonin around, he figured it was best to lay low. With great power comes great responsibility, but after his earlier display of intelligence, it was hard for him to stay unnoticed. Kakashi specifically assigned him, along with Naruto, Sakura, and the ninja dog Pakin, to track down Sasuke and Gaara. On the way, Pakin detected 9 enemy pursuers closing in from behind. Judging by their speed, they were all at least Chunin level, possibly even Jonin. Shikamaru immediately grasped the severity of the situation. Looking at their own group, a hot-headed idiot, a female ninja without any particular strength, a dog, and himself, someone whose specialty was running away. If they were caught, they'd be wiped out. There was only one way. Someone had to stay behind to delay the pursuers, but a 1-on-9 fight meant near certain death for whoever was left behind. At this, they all paused. Who would be the decoy? Naruto was about to speak up, but Shikamaru calmly said, "Obviously it has to be me. I'm the only one who can stall them, and still have a chance of surviving with my shadow imitation jutsu." He waved them off confidently. "I'll catch up with you later." But at that moment, his vision darkened. His previous battle with Temari had drained him of chakra. This mission was a death sentence. He was only putting on a strong front so Naruto and the others could leave without hesitation. Using tree branches to fake dog footprints, Shikamaru lured the pursuers into a tight formation, then extended his shadow to immobilize them all at once. But something was off. There were only 8 of them. Pakin had clearly said there were 9. Shikamaru sighed bitterly and threw out a handful of shuriken. Sure enough, kunai shot down from the treetops, knocking all his shuriken aside. The 9th enemy had been hiding above. But at this point, Shikamaru was completely spent. He had barely enough chakra left to hold 8 people, let alone fight. His shadow imitation jutsu dissipated. He was out of option. "Come on out and take his head while you're at it," one of the enemies sneered. A dark shadow suddenly crashed down behind Shikamaru. Not an enemy. enemy. Asuma. The Jonin swiftly dispatched the attackers before turning to Shikamaru. "Well done," he said. Shikamaru finally let out a breath of relief and muttered, "I really wasn't cut out for this." But the truth was, he had already done his best. For hot-blooded, simple-minded warriors, staying behind as a decoy might be an easy decision. But for someone as intelligent as Shikamaru, it was no different from throwing himself into the fire. Yet, he'd rather be a fool with a clear conscience than a coward who lived in shame. During the Chunin exams arc, we witnessed not only Shikamaru's incredible intelligence, but also his willingness to risk his life multiple times to save his comrades. Those who don't cherish their comrades are worse than trash. Shikamaru was a ninja who lived by this creed. His outstanding performance during the exams earned the recognition of both the Hokage and the daimyo, making him the only one to be promoted to Chunin. To celebrate his promotion, Asuma generously treated his students to a grand feast. Not long after, 5th Hokage Tsunade suddenly assigned Shikamaru an urgent mission. Sasuke had just been taken by Orochimaru's subordinate. Gather the best genin you can find and pursue him immediately. At this time, the Leaf Village was still recovering from the war against Orochimaru's forces, leaving them severely understaffed. They had no choice but to rely on their remaining genin. Shikamaru knew this mission was another deadly one. Without hesitation, he turned and left. There was no time to wait. He quickly assembled a team consisting of Naruto, Choji, Kiba, and Neji, forming a temporary squad under his leadership. Analyzing each member's strength, he devised a detailed strategy and formation for the mission. Before setting out, Shikamaru addressed the team. "Sasuke isn't exactly my best friend. I don't even like him that much. But he, like us, is a ninja of the Leaf Village, our comrade. So no matter what, even if it costs us our lives, we will bring him back. That is the way of the Leaf." With their spirits ignited, the young ninjas charged forward in pursuit of Sasuke. And so began a 600-episode chase. During the Sasuke retrieval mission, the enemies Shikamaru's squad faced were the Sound Four, a formidable group that had previously defeated 2 of Konoha's special jonin. At this stage, they were considered powerful adversaries. With a do-or-die resolve, Choji and Neji managed to take down 2 of them. Meanwhile, Shikamaru, Naruto, and Kiba worked together with brilliant teamwork to briefly reclaim Sasuke. However, Kiba and one of the enemies tumbled into a valley, and just as Shikamaru and Naruto were about to retreat with Sasuke, Kimimaro suddenly appeared, snatching Sasuke away once more. Realizing they had to split up, Shikamaru told Naruto to continue the chase, while he stayed behind to hold off the last enemy, Tayuya. Tayuya, a skilled kunoichi proficient in summoning jutsu and genjutsu, smirked at Shikamaru. "How many of your comrades are you willing to sacrifice just to chase after one person?" Shikamaru responded without hesitation. "As a leader, I know that 4 teammates' lives are more important than one being taken by the enemy. But in my squad, there's no one who would abandon their comrades just to save themselves. And don't underestimate my teammates, I believe in them." Tayuya wasn't impressed by Shikamaru's speech. Instead, she summoned 3 monstrous creatures, stitched together beasts with immense speed, tough skin, and the ability to launch spiritual attack. In the end, Shikamaru used a flash bomb to extend his shadow imitation jutsu, managing to control all 3 creatures and redirect them toward Tayuya. Sensing danger, Tayuya immediately unsummoned them, but it was all a distraction. Shikamaru had secretly extended his shadow behind the trees and caught her off guard. Realizing her opponent was more troublesome than expected, Tayuya activated her curse mark level 2, drastically increasing her strength. Shikamaru's shadow possession jutsu began to weaken under the strain. Desperate, he attempted his newly learned shadow strangle jutsu, but the distance was too great. His shadow only managed to awkwardly grab her chest. Furious, Tayuya played her flute, casting a powerful genjutsu. It looked like Shikamaru was completely trapped, his body frozen, his expression lifeless. Seizing the moment, Tayuya leaped in to finish him off. But just as she was about to strike, Shikamaru smirked. In the blink of an eye, he punched her in the stomach and restrained her with his shadow once more. It turned out that the moment he fell into the genjutsu, Shikamaru had immediately broken his own finger to escape the illusion through sheer pain. His helpless state was all an act, a trap to lure Tayuya closer, so he could strengthen his shadow strangle jutsu. This time, his shadow finally reached her neck, but the power of her curse mark kept increasing, while Shikamaru's chakra was draining fast. In a pure contest of physical strength, his intelligence alone wasn't enough. At that moment, he thought back to the last time he was in such a dire situation, when Asuma-sensei came to his rescue. If only someone could save me now. Just as he had this thought, a violent gust of wind swept through, blowing Tayuya away. To his shock, the one who had come to his aid was none other than his future wife and longtime rival, Temari. It turned out that after Tsunade had assigned the mission to Shikamaru, she had immediately sent a request for reinforcements to the Sand Village. Temari was one of the shinobi sent as backup. Seeing Shikamaru's state, Temari teased him. Giving up already? Here, let me help you out. She then unfolded her giant folding fan and unleashed a devastating, great sickle weasel dance, a wind jutsu so powerful that it completely wiped out the forest along with Tayuya. Turning back to Shikamaru with a playful smile, she asked, "Well, how was that?" Maybe she wasn't being arrogant after all. Maybe she was just flirting. After that, although the Sound 4 and Kimimaro were all defeated, Sasuke still chose to betray the Leaf Village and defect to Orochimaru of his own will. The mission to retrieve Sasuke ended in failure. Shikamaru's team was left battered and wounded, with Choji and Niji sustaining life-threatening injury. Shikamaru blamed himself, believing that his lack of ability had led to the failure of the mission. He felt powerless, thinking that beyond trusting his comrades, he had accomplished nothing. Seeing his teammates on the brink of death, he even considered giving up on being a ninja. However, his father, Shikaku, told him, "Even if you quit being a ninja, the missions will still continue. Your comrades will keep fighting under someone else's leadership, and maybe they'll be in even greater danger. If you truly care about them, then become stronger, strong enough to complete your missions perfectly." Just then, Tsunade and the medics emerged from the emergency room and announced that Choji and Niji were out of danger. Shikamaru could no longer hold back his tears. Next time, I'll make sure the mission is perfect. In this mission, where Shikamaru led the squad to retrieve Sasuke, we not only witnessed his intelligence and leadership skills, but also his deep sense of responsibility, his unwavering trust in his teammate, and his ability to rise from failure with renewed determination and courage. However, his next mission would be a nightmare. During the events of Naruto Shippuden, Shikamaru had mastered the advanced shadow sewing jutsu, gaining a powerful offensive ability. Around this time, the Leaf Village received urgent news. 2 members of the Akatsuki had infiltrated the Land of Fire. In response, Tsunade dispatched 20 teams to track and capture the enemy. Shikamaru and his mentor, Asuma Saratobi, were among those deployed. Their opponents turned out to be the fearsome duo of Haiden and Kakuzu, 2 shinobi with terrifying abilities, including Haiden's bizarre immortality. This battle, which is covered in great detail in Asuma's character arc, ended in tragedy. Due to a lack of information and a vast difference in power, Asuma was killed in battle. For the second time, Shikamaru found himself shedding tears of regret. 3 years have passed, and I still haven't grown at all. In the end, all I could do was trust my comrade, just like before. My weakness got Asuma-sensei killed. After returning to the village, Shikamaru delivered the heartbreaking news to Asuma's partner, Kurenai, but he couldn't bring himself to attend the funeral. At this moment, he couldn't face Asuma, Kurenai, or their unborn child. However, instead of drowning in despair, he channeled his grief into action. That very night, filled with rage and determination, he stayed up planning his revenge. Using the intelligence that Asuma had sacrificed his life to obtain, Shikamaru devised a flawless strategy to counter Haiden's immortality and curse technique. After running countless simulations, he had calculated every possible move within 100 steps. There was no room for error, but the enemy still had Kakuzu, whose full abilities remained unknown. So, he sought out his teammates, Choji and Ino. Before he could even explain, they both asked, "We're going after them, right?" The Ino-Shika-Chō trio had been together since childhood. Without words, they already understood each other. They were going to avenge their sensei. That night, without permission or orders, they gathered outside the village gates. For shinobi, this was a serious violation of protocol, an unauthorized mission. Shikamaru flicked open Asuma's old lighter. "Are you ready? We're heading out." Just then, the 5th Hokage, Tsunade, appeared, blocking their path. "This isn't like you, Shikamaru. Are you planning to throw your life away?" But Shikamaru replied firmly, "We're not going to die. We just can't keep living like this." Tsunade understood that his resolve was unshakable. However, the mission required at least 4 people. At that moment, a voice called out, "4 people will do, right? Then let me be the leader of Team 10. It was Kakashi. Kakashi and Asuma had been close friends since childhood, though their bond wasn't as outwardly obvious as Kakashi's friendship with Guy. Countless small moments revealed the depth of their relationship. Years ago, when Kakashi was drowning in the bloodshed of his time in the Umbu, it was Asuma and others who pulled him out. Now, for once, the chronically late Kakashi was waiting at the village gates ahead of time, because this time, he wasn't going to be late. He was here to avenge Asuma, alongside Shikamaru and the others. Shikamaru simply said, "I'm truly grateful, Kakashi-sensei." With Kakashi, an elite jonin, joining the team, their chances of success increased several times over. Shikamaru quickly adjusted the battle plan and handed a syringe to Kakashi. Kakashi, despite being highly intelligent himself, was genuinely impressed after hearing Shikamaru's strategy. They began their search along the site of their previous battle. Ino used her mind transfer jutsu on a hawk, scanning the area through its eyes until she spotted the enemy. The long-awaited battle for revenge was about to begin. Shikamaru struck first, launching a surprise attack with shadow imitation jutsu. Haiden and Kakuzu noticed the shadow creeping toward them and easily evaded it. Immediately, 2 kunai, each rigged with explosive tag, flew at them. Haiden's scythe was blasted away, while Kakuzu hardened his body to withstand the explosion. Then, Shikamaru fired 2 more kunai, also carrying explosive explosive tag. This time, Haiden and Kakuzu dodged, only to find themselves suddenly unable to move. The kunai weren't ordinary, they were Asuma's chakra blade, capable of absorbing chakra. Shikamaru had infused his shadow possession jutsu into the blades, pinning their shadows in place. The explosive tags were fake, merely a decoy to make sure they didn't block the kunai, allowing the blades to land and immobilize them. With just one move, Shikamaru had trapped both Haiden and Kakuzu. Haiden turned to Kakuzu, yelling, "Hey, how the hell did you get caught too? Be honest, isn't this looking really bad right now?" Shikamaru wasted no time. Using shadow imitation jutsu, he controlled Haiden's body, forcing him to attack Kakuzu. But suddenly, Kakuzu's arm burst from the ground, yanked out the chakra blade, and dodged Haiden's attack. Haiden cheered, "Hell yeah." But this was only the beginning of Shikamaru's plan. While Kakuzu was distracted, Choji struck next, executing an upgraded human bullet tank technique. He slammed into Kakuzu with tremendous force, but just before impact, Kakuzu formed a hand seal. Hiding nearby, Kakashi saw it clearly. It was an earth-release jutsu, reinforcing his body to withstand the attack. Kakuzu smirked, "Physical attacks are useless against me." The moment he finished speaking, lightning blade. Kakashi appeared behind him, and pierced straight through his chest. Haiden was stunned. "What the hell? I thought you said physical attacks don't work." But Kakashi had already analyzed Kakuzu's technique with his Sharingan. Lightning beats earth, one strike, straight to the heart. However, Kakuzu wasn't finished. He revealed his true power. His body contained 5 hearts. Losing one meant nothing. For now though, Shikamaru's Real plan was finally falling into place. During the attack, Kakashi had secretly extracted Kakuzu's blood, using the syringe Shikamaru had given him. This was the key piece of Shikamaru's strategy. Taking the syringe, Shikamaru had everything he needed. He told Kakashi to keep Kakuzu busy. He was going after Haiden alone. Summoning all his chakra, Shikamaru unleashed shadow possession jutsu at full power. Haiden focused entirely on dodging, thinking that a mid to long range fighter like Shikamaru wouldn't dare to engage in close combat. But to his shock, Shikamaru rushed straight at him. Haiden swung his scythe too late. He had no choice but to block with his bare hand. Contact. The moment their skin touched, Shikamaru's shadow possession jutsu succeeded again. With a smirk, he said, "Let's take a nice little walk together." Shikamaru led Haiden into the depths of the nearby forest. Deep within the woods, he had already set up an array of explosive tags throughout the area. Pretending to have exhausted his chakra, he released the shadow possession jutsu. Regaining his freedom, Haiden charged forward, eager to finally take down the guy who had tricked him multiple times. With a single slash, blood finally splattered in the way he had long anticipated. He licked the blood off his blade, and drew the Jashin ritual circle on the ground. His body transformed into its skeletal form, just like when he had killed Asuma. Shikamaru stared at him in terror. Grinning like a child, Haiden stabbed a metal rod straight into his own heart. At the same moment, Kakuzu collapsed to the ground. Haiden was stunned. He hadn't actually cut Shikamaru. The blood he used for the ritual came from the syringe Shikamaru had crushed, which contained Kakuzu's blood. Without realizing it, Haiden had just killed his own teammate's heart. Seeing Shikamaru collapse like a lifeless corpse, Haiden turned away, convinced the fight was over. But in the next instant, Shikamaru's eyes gleamed with cold determination. He lunged forward, slashing at Haiden's neck, and restraining him once again with shadow possession jutsu. To be safe, Shikamaru had anticipated a possible failure. Haiden's forehead protector had absorbed some of the impact, preventing his head from being severed. If it weren't for Kakuzu's intervention and sheer luck, Haiden would have already lost several times. But it didn't matter. Shikamaru's plan was far from over. As Haiden struggled forward, preparing to swing his scythe once more, Shikamaru raised his hand, activating his secret weapon, Shadow Strangle Jutsu. The surrounding shadows surged toward Haiden, entangling him completely, along with the explosive tags hidden within them. The overwhelming force bound him tightly, leaving him utterly immobile. Shikamaru's earlier act of exhaustion was nothing more than a ruse. He had kept his final move in reserve. Then, with a swift motion, he drove a short blade into a marked spot on the ground. The earth beneath them suddenly collapsed. Haiden found himself suspended directly over a deep, dark pit. Shikamaru smirked. "This is the grave I prepared just for you." Haiden's eyes widened in disbelief. This guy, has he really planned everything from the start? Of course he had. Before the battle even began, Shikamaru had already dug this pit, leading Haiden here step by step, without a single miscalculation, while also managing to take out one of Kakuzu's hearts in the process. And this place wasn't just any random location. It was a forbidden ground known only to the Nara clan, a sacred forest where the deer of his family would forever stand guard, ensuring that Haiden could never escape. Shikamaru flicked open Asuma's lighter. For a moment, he could almost see his late sensei standing beside him, resting a hand on his shoulder. Well done. Taking a deep breath, Shikamaru tossed the lighter into the pit. "Goodbye, sensei." A massive explosion erupted. Flames engulfed Haiden, blasting his body apart into scattered pieces. But even with his immortality, only his head remained intact as it tumbled into the pit. From the darkness, his voice echoed one last time. "You will suffer the wrath of Lord Jashin." Shikamaru, standing at the edge of the pit, looked down with cold indifference. "Your god isn't Jashin anymore. Right now, the only god deciding your fate is me." With that, he triggered the final explosion, sealing the pit shut. Haiden was buried beneath the earth, never to see the light of day again. After defeating Haiden, Shikamaru encountered Sakura and Sai, who had arrived to provide support. Sakura wanted to heal his wound, but Shikamaru refused to stop. He had to hurry back to his teammate. Team 10 was still in battle, and he couldn't bear to lose another comrade. Fortunately, by the time he arrived, the fight was already over. Kakuzu had fought against 5 opponents at once, but was ultimately defeated by Naruto's wind-released Raisin Shuriken. Shikamaru's unparalleled intelligence. In this second battle against Haiden and Kakuzu, Shikamaru once again redefined our perception of his intelligence. His strategic brilliance allowed him to outmaneuver even powerful members of the Akatsuki. As long as he had enough intel and preparation, he could manipulate even the strongest enemies as if they were mere chess pieces. But beyond his intelligence, what left the deepest impression was the change in Shikamaru's demeanor after Asuma's death. He had always been a laid-back, easygoing person. Nothing ever seemed to truly anger him. However, this time was different. Whether it was his unwavering determination when confronting Tsunade at the village gates or the lifeless, emotionless gaze he directed at Haiden in their final moments, Shikamaru exuded a terrifying aura. Asuma was not just his teacher, he was his mentor, his role model, the man who had protected him with his life and entrusted his most precious wishes to him. This was a grudge that could not go unanswered. Nothing could stand in his way. Fulfilling his promise, after returning to the village, Shikamaru asked Choji and Ino to go on ahead. At last, he could finally pay his respects to Asuma. It was time to face Kurenai. He promised her, "When Asuma's child is born, let me be their teacher. I will protect them." Having avenged his master, Shikamaru returned to his usual calm self. But he was no longer just the lazy boy he once was. He had grown into a true man, someone capable of protecting the future, just like Asuma. And he truly kept that promise. A new responsibility. Not long after Asuma's passing, Jiraiya also fell in battle while infiltrating the Akatsuki. Shikamaru was tasked with helping the cryptanalysis team decode the final message Jiraiya had left behind. However, this was no ordinary code. It was beyond the understanding of even the most skilled intelligence specialists, including Tsunade and Kakashi. Left with no other option, Shikamaru sought out Naruto. At the time, Naruto was drowning in sorrow, lost in grief. Seeing Naruto in that state reminded Shikamaru of himself after Asuma's death. So, he took Naruto to the hospital to visit Kurenai. "It's time for us to stop being the ones who are entrusted with everything," he told Naruto. "We need to become the ones others can rely on. One day, you'll be the one treating someone to ramen, just like Jiraiya-sensei did. We can't stay kids forever. We need to become strong, like Asuma and Jiraiya." Shikamaru's words lifted the weight off Naruto's heart. Together, they cracked the code, pushing the investigation forward. Later, Shikamaru stood alongside Tsunade and the others, watching as Naruto departed from Mount Mayaboku to train in Sage Mode, protecting the next generation. The enemy who had killed Jiraiya, Pain, the leader of the Akatsuki, soon launched an assault on Konoha. Before Naruto could return, the village was already under siege. Shikamaru was the first to rush to Kurenai's home, using his shadow sewing technique combined with explosive tag to destroy the massive centipede summoned by the animal pack. He then quickly escorted Kurenai to safety. "If anything happens to Sensei or his unborn child, I won't be able to face Asuma." Protecting Kurenai and Asuma's child was Shikamaru's responsibility. The once lazy boy had now become a dependable man. As the battle raged on, Pain unleashed his almighty push, leveling Konoha to the ground. During the battle, Shikamaru suffered a leg injury while protecting Shiho. Meanwhile, Naruto returned, now a sage, and faced off against Pain alongside the toads from Mount Mayaboku. Despite wanting to help, Shikamaru was unable to fight due to his fractured leg. His father, Shikaku, reassured him. "Naruto's battle is beyond what we ordinary shinobi can handle. The best thing we can do is stay out of his way." Shikamaru was left speechless, forced to sit on the sidelines, worrying for his friend. But in the end, Naruto not only defeated Pain, but also convinced Nagato to revive fallen shinobi and villagers. Naruto, once shunned by the village, had now become its hero. Seeing Naruto finally gain the recognition he had long deserved, Shikamaru couldn't help but feel a deep sense of pride and relief. Although the crisis with Pain was resolved, the Akatsuki's true threat was only just beginning. While Naruto fought Pain, Sasuke had already joined the Akatsuki and attempted to capture the Eight Tails Jinchuriki. His actions created tension between Konoha and the Hidden Cloud Village. If war broke out between the two villages while an external enemy loomed, it would be disastrous. After careful deliberation, Shikamaru made a difficult decision. He and his peers would deal with Sasuke themselves. If necessary, they would kill him. His first mission as a Chunin had been to retrieve Sasuke, but they had failed. Now, Sasuke had strayed further into darkness, and Shikamaru could not allow him to continue down this path. However, even someone as brilliant as Shikamaru could not foresee how much Sasuke had grown. Underestimating him was a serious mistake. At the same time, Sasuke's actions triggered the 5 Kage Summit, where a masked man claiming to be Madara Uchiha infiltrated the meeting. He declared war on the 5 great nations, sparking the 4th Great Ninja War. Faced with a common enemy, the 5 villages united for the first time in history, forming the largest shinobi alliance ever. Before the war began, each village held a war council, and Shikamaru was honored to be among Konoha's representatives. Though still young, he was already making his way into the village's leadership circle. When the war broke out, Shikamaru was assigned to the 4th Division, long-range combat, under Gaara's command, alongside Choji, Temari, and others. However, before they could engage in battle, Shikamaru, Choji, and Ino were reassigned to the coastline to support the 1st Division. The reason? Derui's forces had encountered the infamous Gold and Silver brothers of the Hidden Cloud, Kinkaku and Ginkaku. Their abilities were deadly, but the Ino-Shika-Chō formation had the perfect counter. By the time they arrived, Kinkaku had already activated a pseudo-Nine-Tails transformation and was slaughtering shinobi left and right. Working in perfect synchronization, Choji and the allied forces launched a diversionary attack, allowing Shikamaru to restrain Kinkaku with his shadow imitation technique. Ino then used the mind transfer jutsu to enter Kinkaku's consciousness, and with Derui's command, they successfully sealed Kinkaku inside the amber purifying pot. Shikamaru's intelligence and teamwork had once again turned the tide of battle. On the battlefield along the coastline, they encountered an old enemy, Kakuzu, as well as their former teacher, Asuma, who had been resurrected through the Edo Tensei. Seeing his beloved mentor being manipulated like a puppet was something Shikamaru could not tolerate. "We are ready," he declared, his voice steady. "So, sensei, please prepare yourself as well." During the fight, Choji hesitated, unable to strike their former teacher. Ino, understanding the urgency, used mind transfer jutsu to take control of Choji's body. However, this left her own body vulnerable. Seizing the opportunity, a white Zetsu launched an attack on her motionless form. Reacting instantly, Shikamaru used his shadow imitation jutsu to control Ino's body and counter the attack. Their teamwork was seamless. Later, Choza, Choji's father, arrived as reinforcement. With his father's encouragement, Choji finally overcame his doubts and underwent a transformation, both in body and spirit. Together, the Ino-Shika-Chō trio fought as one, ultimately sealing Asuma. The White Zetsu Crisis. As the war raged on, the White Zetsu clones infiltrated the Allied forces' camp using their shape-shifting abilities. These clones didn't just copy appearances, they could perfectly mimic their target's chakra signatures, making them indistinguishable even to the Byakugan. This threw the Allied forces into chaos. Shikamaru devised a countermeasure. Each person would be restricted to a designated area, forming isolated zone. No one was allowed to step outside their assigned space. Anyone who did would be considered an enemy, and dealt with accordingly. This strategy helped curb the White Zetsu's ambushes, but it wasn't a perfect solution. It wasn't until Naruto arrived, having awakened his Nine-Tails chakra mode, that the tide finally turned. Using his ability to sense malicious intent, he identified and eliminated the hidden White Zetsu among the ranks, purging the camp of infiltrators. The battlefield grows more dire. As the war progressed, the situation became increasingly dire. Tobi, who called himself Madara, and the real Uchiha Madara both entered the battlefield, bringing devastation in their wake. The casualties were immeasurable. Worse still, they controlled the Ten-Tails, using its power to unleash destruction upon the Allied forces. Their first target? The command center, where Shikamaru's father, Shikaku, was stationed. In his final moments, Shikaku remained calm. He issued one last order to the Allied forces: focus the battle around Naruto. Then, the command center was obliterated. Despite losing his father, Shikamaru did not allow himself the luxury of grief. He buried his sorrow deep inside. This was war. Any lapse in judgment, any moment of weakness, could lead to greater losses. Determined, he took on his father's role, stepping up as a strategist to lead the Allied forces and keep morale high. Sasuke's unexpected arrival. When Sasuke suddenly appeared on the battlefield, Ino rushed toward him, excited. Shikamaru, however, remained cautious. His instincts as a tactician told him that Sasuke could not be fully trusted. But when Sasuke declared, "I will become Hokage," even the usually unshakable Shikamaru was so stunned that his expression became meme-worthy. The final stand. With Team 7 reunited, Team 10 refused to be left behind. Shikamaru, Choji, and Ino once again combined their powers, forming the Ino-Shika-Chō formation to take on the Ten-Tails. But in this late stage of the war, where gods clashed on the battlefield, Shikamaru, a mere human, had limits. He was not the strongest warrior, but he was the sharpest mind. While others fought on the front lines, Shikamaru focused on strategy, leading the troops. To Temari, he seemed like the perfect candidate for Hokage. A true Hokage must have the ability to change people's hearts. Yet, Shikamaru had no interest in that title. His dream was different. He only wished to support Naruto, the boy who had always dreamt of becoming Hokage. For that goal, even when the divine tree nearly drained him of life, Shikamaru endured, pushing forward with sheer willpower. In the end, Naruto's chakra and Tsunade's healing saved him, allowing him to continue fighting as just another soldier in the army. But when Madara unleashed the infinite Tsukuyomi, reality itself shattered. This war was no longer one that Shikamaru could influence. Like everyone else, he was pulled into the illusionary dream world, powerless against the overwhelming force of the divine battle. After the war, Shikamaru and Temari finally had a proper reason to spend time together. While assisting the 6th Hokage, Kakashi, Shikamaru also used the excuse of helping Naruto prepare for his wedding to continue going on dates with Temari. They even went to a hot spring in together, something that even the usually bold and straightforward Temari found herself blushing over. In the end, Shikamaru finally figured things out, and officially asked Temari out for a meal. Naturally, their relationship progressed, and they ended up together. And with that, Shikamaru's story in this video comes to a close. As one of the unofficial main characters, Shikamaru has arguably had the most screen time among the Konoha 12, aside from Naruto and Sasuke. His intelligence and kindness, his strategic mind and personal growth, his calm demeanor in the face of enemies, and his laid-back attitude toward his friend. All of these traits make him an incredibly well-developed and charming character. If you also like Shikamaru, don't forget to like and support Narutolysis. See you in the next video. Bye bye.